Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My Two Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. I am G2. This is the podcast where I talk about everything that happened in the world of professional wrestling, whether it comes from the world of WWE, AEW, or TNA. That's what you're going to hear from me. On today's episode for TNA, I'll be talking about their TNA Wrestling Impact episode, where they're starting to set up for their Final Resolution TNA Plus event that's happening next Friday. For AEW, I'll be going over what happened on AEW Dynamite and also updating you guys on the Continental Classic brackets. And for WWE, this is their, well, for the main roster, this is the show after Survivor Series. Survivor Series War Games just happened this past Saturday, so this is their continuation of storylines that's been blooming after said War Games. And also for their developmental brand NXT, this is their go-home show, because tonight, if you listen to this on a Saturday, tonight is NXT Deadline, and they had a go-home show on their NXT weekly episode, and you found out who's going to be in both the final spots for the men and women's Iron Survivor challenge match. So I'm going to talk about all those things on today's episode, so let's just jump right on into it. For TNA, as I mentioned, this is their show where they're building towards their Final Resolution event next Friday. On the show, they will start off with Kushida going against Trent Seven, Ace Austin, Leon Slater, and JDC to determine who will become the number one contender for Moose's TNA X Division Championship at Final Resolution. Kushida would win the match by hitting, I want to say he calls the move Back to the Future, but Seth Rollins used to call it God's Last Gift when he was on the Independence, which is a package, a small package like suplex. So he did that to Leon Slater, got the win. So Kushida will be facing off against Moose for the TNA X Division Championship at Final Resolution next Friday. You had Sami Callihan and PCO defeating the Good Hands in the tag team matchup. After the match was over, you had a video playing on the Titantron, and it just had the number 23 on it, alluding to possibly a group or someone coming more than likely after PCO, because he's the digital media champion for TNA. So again, don't know who that is. We'll have to find out in due time. Later in the night, you will see AJ Francis and Casey Navarro of First Class walk up to Nick Nemeth, who is the TNA World Champion. And you see AJ Francis basically telling Nick that he's had a good year in TNA, but AJ's been having the best year of his career, and that he wants to end it off 2024 by becoming the TNA World Champion. Santino Marella, who is the Director of Authority or GM for TNA, would walk up on this conversation, and he would tell AJ Francis that you have been winning some significant matches this past year, and you know what? Get your shot. So at Final Resolution, it'll be AJ Francis going against Nick Nemeth for the TNA World Championship. You had the Hardys going against the System, Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards for the TNA World Tag Team Championships. This was the System's contract obligated TNA World Tag Team title matchup, since they lost their titles to the Hardys at Bound for Glory. So you had the match here. The match would end the disqualification when Alicia Edwards will come out and hit, I want to say probably hit Matt in the back with the kendo stick and have the referee call for disqualification. This will lead to the System's Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers hitting their respective moves on the Hardys. Put up a table, lay Matt on the table, then powerbomb Jeff onto Matt through the table. Later in the night, Santino Marella would say that they're going to have a tag team championship matchup at Final Resolution, and it's going to be a table match. So the Hardys will be going against the Systems, Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, and they'll be defending the tag team titles there. I will like to say that that's basically TNA's like go-to match, because if you've been tracking the Hardys going against the System ever since, I want to say, Jeff came back to TNA, I want to say probably around September or late August time, it has been almost every month on TNA Impact, Hardys versus the System. I've looked at it, and every time I've seen it, the first time it was cool. I was like, oh, this is different. Second time I was like, oh, okay, it's a rematch. Third time I was like, all right, this seems like they're doing a repetitive thing here, and I think they need to spice it up a little bit with the tag team division. Hopefully this will be the last match that we see of the Hardys in the system for some time after Final Resolution, because I feel that TNA being a smaller company, they always are able to bring in independent talent so they can showcase themselves and basically give them a leeway for people to actually see them. So I feel that TNA is able to do that. I think that they need to do that with independent tag teams, have them come in and wrestle on their program, whether they are against established tag teams or they're going against the tag team champions. One or the two. Something needs to happen with the TNA tag team division. I understand they lost Ace Austin, Chris Bay as a tag team because Chris Bay, he went down with an injury and he's kind of hurt right now. Not kind of, he is hurt. He is recovering. Get well, Chris Bay. And Ace Austin, he has to do his singles run here. You got Jake something and Alexander Hammerstone teaming up together to go against Sammy and PCO next week on TNA. But I mean, the tag team division in TNA, I feel that they don't have as many tag teams, but again, with them being such a small company and they always give independent talent a chance, they need to start opening that floodgates hopefully in 2025, because I want to see a tag team division for not just the men but the women themselves flourish, because TNA, they always do that type of thing. So again, that's just a thought to throw out there. You had Tasha Steelz going against Jordan Grace. Tasha Steelz will win that match. That means she'll be going against Masha Slamovich at Final Resolution for the TNA Knockouts Championship. And in the main event, you had an 8-man tag of the Northern Armory, which is Josh Alexander, Judas Icarus, and Travis Williams teaming up with Frankie Kazarian to go against a team of Mike Santana, Eric Young, Steve Maclin, and Jonathan Gresham. Joe Hendry was on the commentary to watch this matchup here. The Northern Armory and Frankie Kazarian would win the match when Frankie Kazarian would hit Jonathan Gresham in the back with his Call Your Shot Gauntlet trophy that Frankie Kazarian won at Bound for Glory. Jonathan Gresham would get covered by Josh Alexander, and that's how the Northern Armory and Frankie Kazarian would win the match, and that will end TNA. So that's your TNA Impact wrestling highlights of the week. So now I want to move over into AEW. AEW this week, we continued on with the Continental Classic with the matches that happened on Dynamite. On Dynamite, you had Shelton Benjamin going against Kyle Fletcher in the Blue League bracket. And in the main event of Dynamite, you had in the Gold League bracket, Brody King versus Claudio Castagnoli. I'm just going to be upfront with you here. Shelton Benjamin, he will lose to Kyle Fletcher. So Kyle Fletcher now has 6 points. And in the main event, Claudio Castagnoli would defeat Brody King. So Claudio has 6 points. They are both in the lead for their respective brackets. I'm going to move over to the continuation of the Continental Classic before I talk about what happened on Dynamite. I'm going to skip over to Rampage for a minute. On Rampage, you had Okada defeating Mark Briscoe in the blue bracket. You had Daniel Garcia defeating the Beast Mortos in the blue bracket. And in the gold bracket, you had Ricochet defeating Commander. So, as the stand is now in the Continental Classic, for the Blue League, at the top, you have Kyle Fletcher with 6 points. Daniel Garcia is right behind him with 4, as well as Okada with 4. Shelton Benjamin has 3, and Mark Briscoe and the Beast Mortos both share a fat donut, 0 points so far. And in the Gold League, you have Claudio Castagnoli with a 6. He's at the lead. You have Will Ospreay, Brody King, and Ricochet all sharing 3 points. Darby Allin and Commander, they both share a big fat donut with 0 points. So, that is your Continental Classic standings as it is right now. Now, I want to move over to what happened on Dynamite this week. On Dynamite this week, you had the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal. You had Jay White going against Pac. You have Swerve Strickland going against Max Caster. I'm just going to talk about something here. One, the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal. We had basically people that are not important except for Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly in this Battle Royal. Like, we had Top Flight in there. We had Leo Rush in there. We had The Butcher in there. You had Rocky Romero in there. You had Lance Archer and Brian Cage in there. I think looking into this, knowing that the winner of this Battle Royal, well, let me paraphrase this and correct this. The last two men that are going to be in this Battle Royal, they have to face off against one another next week, and then the winner will be facing off against MJF at World's End for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. You already knew going into this when you saw the competitors, you knew off top it was going to be Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly to basically be the final two guys. Because if the prize is to face MJF for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, who else in this match has something to do with MJF? Obviously Adam Cole and obviously Kyle O'Reilly, because both of them are trying to get to MJF for a specific reason. Adam Cole, he wants to get revenge on MJF. He wants to take MJF literally out of AEW. He wants to continue what he started last year at World's End. With Kyle O'Reilly, he wants to get at MJF for hurting and injuring Roderick Strong. So you get that. You already knew Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly was going to win. Cool. They have it done. Next week, we get a match between those two guys. My question is, okay, we know Adam Cole is going to win next week. We know this because you have to end this thing between Adam Cole and MJF. It has to happen. You're not going to trail this thing along until Revolution next month. You're not next month, but into the new year, 2025. You're not going to do that. You're going to end this thing at World's End because it got to. Because right now, there's a lot of people online complaining about the whole MJF Adam Cole storyline, saying that, yo, this thing has got too convoluted. People can't follow who's the good guy and bad guy in this, in which for me is real easy to follow because if you look at it from the beginning, MJF, he's always been a bad guy, literally from the beginning of the AEW career all the way to now. The only time I would say we kind of tweaked his stuff was when he was teaming with Adam Cole doing the whole Better Than You Baby tag team mess. And you saw him really like open his heart to Adam Cole. And not going to say stop being a douchebag because he still was a douche. He still was a douchey douche. But he was a likable douche. You know what I mean? So that's the only time I say that we tweaked the character of MJF. But MJF altogether as a real thing, when you look at it all, he's always been a bad guy. Adam Cole, he just basically suckered in MJF and made you, the fans, feel for him. That's the only way he was actually able to trick MJF to really open his heart up and have it be ripped away from him. The same way that MJF plays these little games with all these other individuals. People just happen to forget that MJF does that. And then if you happen to put everything that MJF did on a list and you just put down what Adam Cole did to MJF, I think people would realize that MJF is the true bad guy in all of AEW and that Adam Cole, still standing on what he said, last year after World's End was over, like the first Dynamite after World's End when the Undisputed Kingdom all came out, and he explained his motives. They said point blank, we are ridding AEW of MJF because MJF has always been kind of a cancer. Had his hands around the throat of AEW. Whenever he couldn't get his way, he goes away and he would do something dirty to different people on the roster. We're doing the roster a favor. I believe Adam Cole really feels that way. And again, if you look at what MJF has done, there's no way you can't say that just a little part of you sees what Adam Cole did. Even though you can't follow the whole storyline, you can follow the breadcrumbs of what MJF did do and realize that Adam Cole was right in doing what he did. But I digress. Adam Cole is beating Kyle O'Reilly next week. Okay? What I'm trying to figure out is, the big question mark is, MJF is not on television. Live television. He's only on videos that they play on the Titantron. That's the only time you see MJF since, I want to say, I'll go with, was it? No. It was at Wrestle Dream. That was the last time you saw MJF technically in the ring when he wasn't wrestling. Other than that, the last time you saw him in the ring was Full Gear going against Roderick Strong. After Wrestle Dream, he's always been on the Titantron with a video playing. Other than that, you haven't seen MJF step his foot in the ring except for, again, as I said, against Roderick Strong at Full Gear. I would like to see MJF back in the ring, in front of the people, telling the people off the way that it's supposed to be done. And I understand MJF is probably in Hollywood recording movies and doing this and that. Cool, fine. But you have to make time for what you are known for. You are known for being a professional wrestler. Your movie career and all that, you can do that, but whenever it is showtime, I feel that you need to be there instead of always doing this video thing. And again, this is just a guy speaking here. Take that for what you want. But if you happen to miss your number one draw, because let's not get stupid here, MJF is the number one draw in AEW. Anytime he comes, makes his way out to the ring, he gets an ovation. Whether it be cheers, boos, more of a mixed bag, but I'll say more cheers. But then when he starts talking, he'll get the boos here and there. But anytime he comes out to the ring, he gets an ovation. Anytime he says something on the mic, he's going to get some type of emotion out of you. When he's in the ring wrestling, he's going to make sure you understand what he's doing, look at what he's doing, and you're going to feel a way about him. Either or. That's what MJF does, and he's been doing that ever since AEW first started on national television. He has been the guy that everybody's wanted to see. And for him not to be on television week by week, just by being on a freaking video for Titantron, I don't think that's gonna work well. Hopefully this is the last movie that he actually has a film for a minute and we get back to the previous product of MJF being there and just ragdolling people on the mic. But I'm hoping so. And again, next week, Adam Cole's beating Kyle O'Reilly. We're setting up for MJF and Adam Cole to finally end this crap at World's End. And you know what? I feel that they probably might have MJF retain the freaking Dynamite Diamond Ring at World's End. I hope that someone wins that freaking ring off of MJF. I do. I want to see MJF without that ring. I do. That's my biggest thing. I feel that again. 2 years ago, they could have did it with Ricky Starks, and I think that would have been great, but they didn't do that. Last year, I forgot that Juice Robinson went against MJF for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and MJF won that. Juice could have been a perfect guy to win the freaking ring off of him, especially with the storyline that they were doing with Jay White against MJF. Great, take the ring off of him there. Again, you had a perfect opportunity there. They didn't do it. With Adam Cole taking that Dynamite Diamond Ring away from MJF, I think that'll be a great thing. And it will make MJF really throw a big temper tantrum, really try to figure out a way to get back something that Adam Cole now has of his. But again, we'll wait and see how this goes. I don't want to throw out too much, but that's just the way I think it should go at World's End, but we'll find out there. Swerve Strickland versus Max Caster. Swerve beat Max Caster. Got the win. After the match was over, he hit him with a Swerve Stomp. I was cool with it because you know what? Swerve is still trying to go after the Hurt business, or the Hurt Syndicate. And he looked into the camera saying that his business with Bobby Lashley isn't over. So we can expect a match between those two coming soon. Max Caster, he is still going into the whole best wrestler alive thing. And you didn't see him walk out with Anthony Bowens or Billy Gunn. You did see him backstage with them, though, this week before his match. And both Billy Gunn and Anthony were not pleased with Max Caster doing this match with Swerve. Billy tried to have Anthony talk Max out of it, but Anthony said, "You say you're the best wrestler alive, right? Prove it. Go out there and prove it." And Max, he just being so nonchalant, he said, "Okay, I'm gonna go out there and prove it." And he lost. So I would like to see how they do with the Acclaim with this split that's coming, because you know it's coming. Max Caster, he's starting to feel the type of way. Anthony Bowen's starting to feel the type of way about Max. Billy Gunn's going to be stuck right in the middle of this. And I feel that this is a perfect opportunity for the Hurt Syndicate to come in and try to grab Max Caster and have him be like the young, cocky guy on the team that's obviously delusional, but he'll make for fun crew fodder. Basically be like the joking hand of the crew. You know what I mean? So we'll have to wait and see when they're going to get Max Caster in the Hurt Syndicate. Jay White versus Pac. Jay White would win the match after Wheeler Yuta would hit a psycho knee onto Jay White, throw Jay White into the ring. Pac would go over to Jay White, try to get him up, but Jay White would just trick Pac and hit him with the Blade Runner, get the win. 1, 2, 3. After the match is over, Wheeler Yuta comes in, tries to get at Jay, but Jay quickly hits him with a Blade Runner. Now both Pac and Wheeler Yuta are down. Marina Shafir, she comes in, try to get at Jay White. Can't do so, but this one Moxley starts coming in. Moxley comes in, starts putting the boost to Jay. I believe he even hits him with Paradigm Shift and puts him down. Then that's whenever you see Hangman Page coming down. Hangman comes down. He has a stare down with Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley's outside the ring looking at Hangman. And you see a crew member of AEW like go behind Jon Moxley and start choking him with one of the TV cable wires. The crew member would unmask himself and it ends up being Orange Cassidy. So now we're back to this. Cassidy, Moxley brawls to get in the ring. Hangman gets in the ring. He starts taking care of Pac and Yuta. Orange is dealing with Mox. Orange ultimately hits Mox with the Orange Punch. Jay White would hit Mox with the Blade Runner. And Hangman Page would hit Mox with the Buckshot Lariat. And then you see Mox basically roll out of the ring. And you see Orange, Jay White, and Hangman Page all staring at one another. I think that we're going into a Fatal 4-Way match at World's End. And I think that's a great way to do about it. Because I think this is probably the first time AEW's done a men's Fatal 4-Way for the World Championship. I know they did a one for the women at All In last year. But this is the first time I think that they've done it for the men for the World Championship. And having those four guys in it isn't bad. Hangman, he needs to try to get back to AEW World Championship because that's what he was trying to do at the beginning of the year. Trying to grab the world title, but he's doing it for different purposes. At the beginning of the year, he was trying to make sure that Swerve doesn't become AEW World Champion. At the end of this year, he wants to become the AEW World Champion because he feels that he deserves to be the champion. It's his right. Orange Cassidy, he wants to take the title away from Jon Moxley because he doesn't like Jon Moxley having a stranglehold on AEW. Got my man's name, Jay White. You can see that he wants the freaking title because obviously he wants the gold. He wants to be the world champion. He wants to be the man. And that's the reason why he came over from New Japan to go to AEW. He wants to be the man here, the same way that he was in New Japan. So that's the reason why he wants the gold. Jon Moxley, he wants to retain it because, again, he has an iron fist on AEW right now. Him and his crew are coming in any time and point, beating up anyone that he feels like it because he's tired of AEW being this soft place that's so carefree and laid back. No, he wants people in there that are nose to the ground. Hey, we're ready to do what we got to do to be the top company, yada, yada, yada type business. That's what he wants. So that's how I feel that he's going about this whole thing with the Death Riders in AEW. He's trying to pull the toughness out of everyone. So I think that's the perfect way to do that by still being the world champion and with him having an iron fist and beating up everyone. Why not do it? So it's going to be interesting announcement when they do announce it because we all see the vision. We all see how it's going to go. And also lurking in the back is Christian Cage. Christian Cage still has his championship opportunity that he can cash in at any time. And again, he was lurking in the back. I think he's going to lose it. I think he's going to lose that freaking championship matchup because when earlier in the night, Hook came out. Hook challenged Christian Cage to a match at the Hammerstein Ballroom. Christian Cage would come out. Mama Wayne would come out. This was all a distraction for Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian to get the drop on Hook. It will lead to the patriarchy all putting the boots to Hook. They hit a concerto on Hook's wrist, which would effectively break Hook's wrist. So I feel that they're going to take Hook out for a minute. He's going to be on ice, and they're going to allow Christian to basically hover around the AEW World Championship picture. And when he's about to cash it in, he has his match set. They announce it. Hook's probably going to come out there, screw Christian Cage, and Christian will not be able to win the AEW World Championship. So that's the way I feel is going to go with that. I feel that Jon Moxley is not losing that championship in the Fatal 4-Way matchup when they do announce it because, again, the ultimate savior will be Darby Allin. Darby's winning the AEW World title from Jon Moxley, so we have to just wait and see for whenever they make that the situation actually realized. So with that said, that's your AEW Dynamite wrestling highlights of the week. And now let's move over into WWE. Since NXT is having their Stand and Deliver pay-per-view, I would rather end with NXT leading into NXT Stand and Deliver. So I'm going to start with the main roster. So we go off to Monday Night Raw. So on Monday Night Raw, we had a great show in my professional opinion. I think that Raw this week was a great show. We had a lot of storyline developments happening since this was the Raw after Survivor Series. We would start first and foremost with CM Punk. CM Punk would come down to the ring, and CM Punk would talk about his future. And he mentions the favor that he has with Paul Heyman, and he doesn't explicitly say what the favor is, but he goes to the second turnbuckle, he looks over into an area, and he starts pointing. Now, for the people that didn't see the imagery, it's basically whenever someone points at the WrestleMania sign, but the sign wasn't there, Punk starts alluding to he knows where his future is leading to him, and he starts alluding to going after Cody Rhodes' WWE Championship. You can hear all in his talking about, I don't need a road to finish my story. There's different roads I can take to get to where I want to go. And it was all, again, with him using the words roads, you kind of get the gist. He's going after Cody in the WWE Championship, and he's more than likely going to use that favor that Paul Heyman owes him since he helped the Bloodline, the OG Bloodline, win their match at War Games. So as Punk's making his grand declaration, out walks Seth Rollins. So you know what time it is. We get back to our initial beef that we had, I'll say last year when Punk got into the WWE or made his return, the Seth Rollins CM Punk dilemma. Rollins talks about how he has waited a whole entire year and he's thought about it, and he thought about knocking CM Punk on his butt, and he should have done that the first night CM Punk came back last year at Survivor Series. And he mentions how he's tired of waiting and he's going to knock Punk on his butt right now. So Seth is out here. He's ready to fight Punk. Punk tells Seth point blank, listen, last year you had something that I want, but this year you don't. So I already told you my intentions is to go after championship gold. And since you don't have it, our deal is done. So Punk has no type of standing with Seth at this moment. He made his intentions clear. Seth wouldn't hear it, and Seth would shove Punk. Punk, not being a guy that backs away from anything like this, he goes right after Seth. So now you got these two going at one another. Then you get Jey Uso, Sami Zayn coming out there to separate the two, and then you get other security guards to come down there. Jey separates Punk from Seth while Sami's holding on to Seth. Punk and Jey starts walking to the back. Seth gets on the mic and starts shouting at Jey, say, yeah, go with Punk. Yeah, you guys go and help Roman. And he's basically getting at Jey for helping out Roman Reigns. Seth would get to a point and cross the point that Sami would have to tell Seth, hey, that's enough. Your problem's with Punk, not Jey. And then Seth would say, you know what? You're right. I apologize to Jey. He's family to Roman. I understand why he did what he did. But what about you? What's your excuse? And now you get Sami and Seth going at this back and forth about why Sami teamed up with Jay, and how it's ridiculous of Sammy to have teamed up with the monster of Roman Reigns. Seth would recall to Sammy, hey, you do remember that we put ourselves on the line to take that monster out of power? You know, with you guys doing what you did last year at WrestleMania, me doing what I had to do this year at WrestleMania. We had to get the championship off of Roman, and now you're just trying to set him back on the throne of power. What's your excuse for that? And Sammy would first and foremost have to correct Seth and tell him, well, first and foremost, we didn't want to team with Punk. As a matter of fact, I came to you twice, and you turned us down twice. So that's the reason why we teamed with Punk at Survivor Series to take care of that business. And secondly, you created this monster of Roman Reigns. And again, that's throwing up all the years long history of when Seth cracked Roman in the back with the Shield business. Seth will let Sammy know, hey man, I know I'm not just innocent in this. I know what I did. I'm repentant for it. I've asked forgiveness, all that stuff. But let's not get it twisted. You also are a problem for this. You're part of this reason why Roman is the way that he is. And he's alluding to Sammy hitting Roman in the back with a chair last year at the Royal Rumble. So both men are basically accusing one another of basically creating or help create the monster Roman Reigns that we have now. We get to Sammy and Seth wanting to, or more than less, Sammy wanting to take on Seth in the main event of Raw to get the match made. That ends up happening. But on the way to that, we get a segment in the night where Jay's attacked backstage. Nobody knows who does it. Sammy's pissed off. Sammy's trying to figure out who attacked Jay from behind. He would go to Adam Pearce and ask him, do you have any idea who did it? Pearce would ask Sammy, I have no idea. But Sammy, do you have an idea of who might have wanted to attack Jay? And Sammy would say, I do. I do have an idea. And he's automatically thinking of Seth. So we get to the main event. Seth and Sammy, they have their bout with one another. And in that bout, you see Sammy go outside, grab a chair because he's full of emotion. And he's thinking that Seth was the guy that attacked Jay from behind. Seth has to tell Sammy, I did not attack Jay. Think about it. It's CM Punk, because he calls Punk a snake, and you can't really trust a snake like Punk. And he's gotten Sammy to basically put the chair down and kind of withhold his anger at that moment. So when Sammy puts the chair down, Sammy goes over to Seth. Seth would get Sammy in a schoolboy or small package pin, get the win. And after the match, Seth would tell Sammy, I did not attack Jay. You got to think with your head, man. I didn't do it. I love you, but you got to think more. So when Seth goes to the back, Sammy's standing in the ring, and out from behind him, he gets hit with a Claymore. Drew McIntyre is back. Drew McIntyre stands over Sami Zayn's body, and you could kind of already assume right there that Drew McIntyre was the guy that attacked Jey Uso. And I'm going to say that he was the guy, because if you think about it, why else? Why else would Drew attack Sami Zayn? What else is there for Drew to do? Because we can go back to the CM Punk business, but I think they want to kind of let that be on the back burner for right now, because you could always go back to the Drew and Punk thing, because that was one of the best rivalries of this year. Even without them touching so much in the ring, they only had, 3 matches all throughout 2024. They had more in-ring segments with one another, but that's still one of the best feuds of 2024 here. You got to have something for Drew to do. And Drew attacking or trying to get revenge on the OG bloodline will be great. And you got to think, Drew has business to do with the OG bloodline, because you got to remember, when Drew was in 2022 and the Usos and Roman were running WWE, because they were the unified champions, literally, Roman being the men's unified champion, the Usos being the tag team unified champions, who weaseled their way to get in the bloodline? Sami Zayn. And for people that don't remember this, how did Sami weasel his way into the bloodline? Who was he running from? He was running from Drew McIntyre. He was running from Drew McIntyre. So I like how they are running that back of Drew basically getting his hands on the OG bloodline one member at a time. Obviously, he has to deal with Jay and Sammy because they're on the Raw side. He'll make his way to Roman because I have a feeling they're going to do that at some point. Truly. I really do. But for him now to deal with Jay and Sammy, that's great. I'm glad they're doing that. So that's one piece of business that happened on Monday Night Raw. Another piece of business that happened on Monday Night Raw was the beginning of the Women's Intercontinental Championship Tournament. We had Dakota Kai going against Katana Chance, going against Shayna Baszler in a triple threat match. Dakota Kai would win that, so now she moves to the semifinals. The other women that are participating in this Intercontinental Championship Tournament is Zoe Starks, Raquel Rodriguez, and Katie Carter. They're in a triple threat match with one another. You have Lyra Valkyria, Selena Vega, and Ivy Now. They're in a triple threat match. And then you have Alba Fire, Kairi Sane, and Natalya in a triple threat matchup. So those are the women, and those are the matches that is going to be in this Intercontinental Women's Championship Tournament to crown the first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion. So we started that tournament this week on Monday Night Raw. I believe next week they're saying that Lyra Valkyria, Zelina Vega, and Ivy Now, their matches up next week. So we have that to look forward to next week on Raw. We had Gunther going against Dominic Mysterio this week because Finn constantly pressed Adam Pearce to try to get a match with Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. At first Finn went over to Gunther, and Finn tried to get Gunther to give him a shot at the World Championship. Gunther would basically bypass Finn and look at Dom and say that Dom deserves a match with him because, unlike Finn, Dom has been able to actually do something that Finn hasn't been able to do, is pin Damian Priest. So we get Gunther, Dominic Mysterio. Finn would attack Gunther after the match because Gunther would beat Dom. That was a foregone conclusion here. Finn would attack Gunther from behind and start hitting him with a coup de grace after another coup de grace. I think he hit him with like 3 coup de graces and then hold the World Heavyweight Championship over Gunther. Then you get Finn going to Adam Pearce and saying that he wants a shot with Gunther for the World Championship because he's tired of Gunther dunking him. And Pearce was saying, you know what's funny? Gunther wants you. So now you're going to get it. At Saturday night's main event, it'll be Gunther versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. So that match gets made official. I believe the biggest thing that everybody knows that happened on Monday Night Raw but caught everybody by shock was the New Day 10-year anniversary. We go out, we have all their I'm not going to say all their memorabilia, but like important pieces of the New Day's 10-year run out there with them. From Xavier Woods is a King of the Ring cape out there, from the big old box of inflatable Bootios to the Bootio styrofoam ring in the ring. You have the WWE tag team titles that they actually won, the penny shaped belts. You have photos in there. You have the photo of them holding Kofi Kingston when Kofi won the WWE Championship. You have photos of them holding Big E when he won the WWE Championship. And you have photos of them just standing all together in unison. So those pieces of important memorabilia is out there. Out walks Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Xavier and Kofi, they get cheered by the people. The people are happy to see them. Kofi and Woods, they take it in. They tell the people they appreciate all of that, and they appreciate them for rocking with the New Day for the past 10 years. It's been a crazy ride, but they appreciate the fan base. But they do have to start off with some sad news, and you can kind of see that they're about to say they're about to break up. But before they can even say that, out walks Big E, who Big E gets a nice big cheer from the people. People are happy to see Big E. The announcer team did mention how it's been 4 years since Big E has been on Raw or SmackDown, which I do got to correct them. They're wrong. It's only been 2 years. Big E got injured on SmackDown in 2022, early SmackDown 2022, because it was leading into WrestleMania for the Brawling Brutes going against the New Day, because it was supposed to be a 6-man. But plans got changed, obviously, because Big E's neck got injured. So it's only been 2 years since Big E's been on Raw or SmackDown as a competitor. So, but either way, it was still a good thing. Just me and my nerd brain here just had to throw that out there. Anyway, Big E gets out here and he starts talking to Kofi and Woods, and I just want to play the audio of that just so you guys can feel Big E's words to his brothers.
I wish I was here under different circumstances. Because to see the two of you argue and bicker and say some of the most hurtful things that you can imagine to each other, man, that troubled my soul something deep. When we started this 10 years ago, we were all we had. All we had was each other. Kofi, 10 years ago, you were mulling over retirement because you had your passion for this beaten out of you. Woods, 10 years ago, you and I, we were this close to getting fired. And on one of the worst days of my life and the scariest moment of my career, the two of you were at my hospital bedside for hours making sure I was good. Kofi, I was in a neck brace a few months after your daughter was born, and you, your wife, and Lotus were in my home, and I held her for the first time. Woods, when you got back from winning King of the Ring, a childhood dream, I was the first person to greet you as you spilled tears on my shoulder. What we built means something to a lot of people, and if for damn sure, it means a hell of a lot to me. So, until I am medically cleared to return to this ring, I am going to remind the two of you exactly who you are. I'm going to be here to cheer for you, to root for you, to uplift you. I'm going to be here every single week. To serve as your managers.
So as you can see, Big E was here. He told them that, hey, it troubled his soul seeing his brothers fight with one another and just bicker with one another, just like a real brother would do whenever they're out and they see their other brothers just going at one another. It hurts them. So Big E, knowing he's hurt, he's trying to get back on the road to recovery. He decides now is the time for him to step in. Now is the time before Kofi and Woods are about to really do the unthinkable. He wants to now come here and be with his brothers and be here in their time of turmoil and make sure that they can stay together. And he wants to be there for them, and he wants to be as their manager for them. Now, as you heard from the people, they're happy, everybody's cheering, but there's a small problem. Xavier and Kofi, they had other ideas.
Now, you want to come back? After you watched us fight for months, after you watched us argue to the edge of the cliff and the last thing left to do was jump, now you want to come back? E, you left us.
I broke my neck. What do you mean? I've been doing my best.
You left us, E. Yeah, you broke your neck. So what? Stone Cold Steve Austin broke his neck, and he came back. Kurt Angle broke his neck, and he came back. Edge broke his neck, and he came back.
They didn't even have people here waiting for them. You had two family members who had the light on for you so you'd have something familiar to walk back into. And what'd you do with that, E, huh? Nothing. We didn't change. We didn't evolve at our own deficit for you.
No. E, you mean to tell me that as big as you are, as strong as you are, plus with the fact that you never even had to have surgery on your neck, you mean to tell me that you couldn't have been back here a long time ago if you wanted to?
Coach, I've been meeting with doctors, I've been doing scans, I've been x-rays, MRIs, I've been doing my best to get back.
We've heard it all before. You know what happened to me, E? I tore my Achilles tendon off the bone, and I actually had to have surgery. I was back in 9 months for you.
If you really, truly cared about us, you'd have been back here a long time ago. You'd have been by our side, clapping by our side, encouraging us, cheering us on, galvanizing us. But nah, you chose your new life over us. You chose your new projects over us. You chose your new girlfriend over us. You chose your new death job over us.
Matter of fact, E, listen up. Do you even realize the burden that you've become? No matter where we go, every single city, no matter who we meet, they all say the same thing. We miss E. As if we don't miss E. But obviously E doesn't miss us.
Our philosophy since day one, since the jump, has always been about the brotherhood before anything else. The New Day before anything else. We before me. That's what the philosophy's been. But you, broken neck or not, you chose yourself over us.
And matter of fact, E, let's stop teasing all these people. Let's tell them the truth, E. You are never going to be medically clear. And since that's the case, why don't you get the hell out of this ring and get back to your desk where you belong? And we'll call you if we need you.
Now, let me give you guys my first thought impressions of this whole entire segment. First and foremost, I thought this segment was going to be the last thing on Monday Night Raw. I thought this was going to be the main segment because when was the last time WWE or any professional wrestling organization has ever had a stable or a three-man unit, whatever you want to call them, to last 10 years? I can't remember the last time that's actually ever happened. Probably like the Four Horsemen, probably during their heyday, but I don't think nobody else, especially with the big groups, has ever lasted 10 years consecutively. DX didn't do it. NWO didn't do it. Evolution didn't do it. The Shield didn't do it. There's so many teams, but the New Day being able to accomplish this big, goal, this big achievement, I thought they were going to get the last segment of Monday Night Raw. I thought that would be the thing for them. But no, they were in the middle of the show. And boy, with this whole thing playing out the way that it did, I am half and half on it. Because if we would have ended Raw on this, I feel it would have been a bigger impact. But with this being in the middle of Monday Night Raw, it had the whole internet abuzz. It had everybody talking about it for the whole entire week of professional wrestling. People were really upset, and it really sat with their soul. If you were able to see the video footage, you got WWE literally cutting the camera shots of people looking like, oh no, and you heard them hit the oh as different points in which Kofi and Woods start chopping E down verbally. And that's the thing. Kofi and Woods doing what they did or saying what they said to E, right? There's certain people that will say that Kofi and Woods said nothing wrong. They said nothing but the truth. Because when you think about it, with Big E not having to have surgery, right? You would think he would have been able or should have been able to come back by now, right? Because Kofi mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, and Edge. All three men having to have their necks being surgically taken care of after they broke them, they still were able to come back in the ring. Big E didn't have to have surgery at all, and he's still away right now. As a matter of fact, he does the pre-show and the post-show whenever WWE has their premium live events. He's on their panels. Why isn't he out there? Why was he not in a manager position with his brothers in arms a year ago? Earlier this year? That is the questions that Kofi and Woods were literally posing to Big E. Just because you couldn't wrestle, why were you not out there with us in our times of need when you know we needed you because you are the third man? The New Day runs as a three-man unit. three heads work together to have this machine running the way that it's supposed to go. That's the angle of which Xavier and Kofi are really working here. So with them saying all this stuff, especially with the so what, when Big E said, dude, I broke my neck, I was trying to get back here. With Kofi saying so what, I think that's the thing which people got like, oh no you didn't. Bro, how can you say so what to that? Your neck being broken, that's not a so what thing. Dude, people get paralyzed off of that. That is one of the worst things someone can do or have done to them, their neck being broken. So with Kofi saying that, so what? I think it took the level of betrayal up to another notch. I think Woods saying get out of the ring and go back to your desk job and we'll call you when we need you. That's just a brother being angry at a brother because you weren't there for us in our times of need when we really needed you. Before we threw out those harmful words that Kofi and Woods did to one another last week. Big E could have came months ago. That's the angle in which Kofi and Woods are taking. And certain people are on that side. Certain people are on the side of Big E because Big E didn't want to be around something that he loved, be around his brothers doing something or having just to watch them in live doing something that he wants to be there to do with his brothers that he was doing for the last 8 years before his neck got broken 2 years ago. I think people miss that point whenever they're on the side of Kofi and Woods. How would you feel if you're doing something with your people that you love, and then one day you can't do that no more, or you are literally stopped from doing that thing? Would you be around that thing that made you happy? No, you wouldn't. You would need to mess with your mind. You would need to decompress yourself. You would need to step away from that because it will put you in a real bad depressive state. And I think that's another framework that they might go along with this, but if they don't touch it, that's their thing. But long story less long, this was a great segment to really make Kofi and Woods bad villains. And I want them to get the Grayson Waller effect. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that in a way of like this. If you watch NXT in 2021, when they made the switch from black and gold era to the NXT 2.0, there was a time when Johnny Gargano was leaving NXT and his contract was up with WWE, legitimately. And people had no idea whether he was going to stay with WWE, jump to AEW, or whatever. His last night in NXT, he does his farewell to everyone, has his time in the ring, but Grayson Waller attacks Johnny Gargano in the back with a steel chair, and he puts Johnny Gargano through a table, and that gives Grayson Waller the rub of being the most hated man in NXT. And I want to say the week next that happened, Grayson Waller comes around backstage, and in backstage segments, people will look at Grayson Waller in disgust. Like, he is disgusting. They can't even fathom being around him. I want that to happen for the New Day. New Day needs to be looked at in disgust and filth by the good guys and the bad guys of the roster. Because everyone knew how the New Day worked. Everyone knew the machine. But for them to kick out Big E, a guy that was dealing with a broken neck, that is low upon low. So I need them to really go all the way out there with that next week with the good guys and bad guys. Literally look at New Day like, we can't even believe you. We don't even want to be around you, associate ourselves with you like that. I need to see that happen for me to fully, say yes, they are really nailing the whole betrayal thing. So that's what I'm hoping for that they do with the New Day thing. Again, they nailed it with a home run with the New Day 10-year segment because we thought that the New Day was breaking up. Woods and Kofi were just about to go into a feud with one another, but nope. What they did was they told E to, hey man, leave and we'll call you when we need you. And those two are just going to be sticking together, and they now have a new motivation. motivation is hatred. So the New Day is still together, but I'm not certain if Big E's kicked out or not. Because again, they're a brotherhood. Wood just told him to get out of the ring, and if we'll call you when we need you. So again, I'm not certain. I just know they did a verbal obliteration of Big E there. So we'll have to wait and see as time goes on. But those were the big moments that happened on Monday Night Raw here. So with that, let's go over to SmackDown. On SmackDown, we had the continuation of their Women's United States Championship Tournament. We had Naomi, Tiffany Stratton, and Elektra Lopez in a triple threat match. Tiffany Stratton would win that. And we have our semifinals matches made, and they'll be competing next week. We have Bayley going against Chelsea Green, and we have Michin going against Tiffany Stratton. The winners of the Bayley-Chelsea Green match will meet up with the winner of the Michin and Tiffany Stratton match, and they will meet at Saturday night's main event next Saturday to crown who's going to be the first ever women's United States champion. So we have that situation handled there. Another thing that was brought upon on SmackDown was that they gave updates on the men's War Games match participants. They gave an update on Bronson Reed. They announced that he has a broken foot, so he's going to be out indefinitely. Tongaloa, he has, I believe, a torn bicep. So, not a torn bicep, but a torn pec. So, he's going to be out indefinitely. He has surgery on it, but he's going to be out indefinitely. Jimmy Uso, he broke a toe. So, he's going to be out indefinitely. So, those three guys are out. We had the new Bloodline, Solo, Jacob, and Tama Tonga run roughshod. And I can't even really say run roughshod. They had two segments here. The first segment was whenever they walked into the building. You see them bypass Apollo Crews, getting them like metal security check. And Apollo's like telling Solo, "Hey man, you saw me right here." And then as soon as he says that, Jacob Fatu attacks Apollo Crews. Security would try to get at the new Bloodline, but they would just decimate security. The next time we see the new Bloodline was whenever Shinsuke Nakamura was out in the middle of the ring being looked at by LA Knight and Andrade, El Idolo. You can already see that Shinsuke is going to have to deal with LA Knight, obviously, because LA is going to have his championship rematch, but Andrade wants a rematch with Shinsuke because Shinsuke cheated to win a match against him. But anyhow, the new Bloodline, they would attack LA Knight and Andrade, and they'll have a stare down with Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura would start leaking out black liquid out of his mouth, and before Jacob Fatu can get to Shinsuke, you see Solo put his hands on Jacob's arm and say, "Nah." And Nakamura would just leave out of the ring. So Nak isn't scared to get down with the new Bloodline. He was ready for it, but they knew better, and Nakamura knew better, so they both just held their guns in, and they went about their separate ways. Nakamura left the ring. Solo got the microphone, and he straight up tells everyone that just because he lost 2 soldiers at War Games doesn't mean that this is the end of the new Bloodline. He's tired of people taking him as a joke. He's tired of people not taking him seriously. If someone wants to come out here and test him, they could come and do so. Nobody does. So the new Bloodline are still here. And personally, this is a menacing Bloodline because Solo's pissed off because his team lost at War Games. Jacob Fatu, he is just a destruction beast of a man. So that's just what it is with Jacob Fatu. Tama Tonga, he is the legit wild card. He'll attack you and just do anything. So I see this as a dangerous version of the Bloodline. This is kind of the Bloodline that we had before what? Tongaloa came in and kind of got into the mix. Did Tongaloa come in before Jacob or Jacob came in before Tongaloa? I'm not certain. It's blurry in my mind right now. But either way, this is a dangerous Bloodline now because, again, their motive is anger. So they tell everyone to just basically be wary of them. What else happened? We were supposed to have the Street Profits going against the Motor City Machine Guns for the WWE Tag Team titles, but the Street Profits would get attacked, and we had no idea who attacked them at this moment. Nick Aldis would have to go to the Motor City Machine Guns and say, "Hey, we're going to have to cancel the match because the Profits got attacked. Gargano will go up to the Guns and Aldis and say, hey, I just heard about it and I don't want to be insensitive to it, but if you still need a championship matchup tonight, why don't DIY go against the Motor City Machine Guns? Nick Aldis wasn't trying to hear it, and Alex Shelley would say, hey, let's give it to him. Let's give him a match. So the match gets made. Tommaso Ciampa, he's all aggressive to DIY, beats him up. He gets aggressive on Johnny Gargano because Gargano is friends with Alex Shelley. They constantly tell you that on commentary for weeks upon weeks about this. And Gargano is just being pressed by Ciampa. And Ciampa is telling Gargano, hey, you need to pull the trigger. What's going on? And it's just that back and forth dynamic between Tommaso and Gargano here that we're seeing in this matchup, to the point that it gets too much. Gargano and Ciampa beef with one another in the middle of the ring, and Ciampa pushes Gargano, then Gargano pushes Ciampa, and Ciampa falls into the mat, and Gargano just yells at Ciampa, get out of here. I can handle this on my own. Get out. Ciampa, being the hothead that he is, he leaves the ring. He goes to the commentary table and starts saying something to them. He goes over to the timekeeper area, grabs a steel chair. And at this point, the Motor City Machine Guns are about to hit Skull and Bones on Gargano, but Ciampa, he will slide a chair in the ring, look at the referee. The referee would be distracted with Ciampa and miss Gargano hitting Chris Sabin with a low blow. And now you got Alex Shelley on the top turnbuckle, and he's looking confused. And he gets down, goes over to Gargano, and looks at him and asks, like, what are you doing? And Gargano was super kick Alex Shelley. This was all a ruse by the DIY. And you see Gargano go over to Ciampa, give him a smile. They tag in, and they hit meet in the middle on Chris Sabin. Pin Sabin, and DIY is your new WWE Tag Team Champions. So now they're two-time tag team champions, and they are the ones, you could kind of already tell that they attacked Street Profits here. So more than likely, we're probably going to get a triple threat match between these two guys, these three teams, not at Saturday Night's main event, probably on a SmackDown episode, probably to close out this year of 2024. That's my thought process on that. But we'll just have to wait and see with that. But we do now know that DIY are villains here. And I believe the final piece of business that we have to handle is there was some commingling between Raw and SmackDown this week. Cody Rhodes, who opened up the show, he talks about his business with Kevin Owens, and then out walks American Made. And Chad Gable lets everyone know that there's going to be like this draft switch up in the coming weeks. And he's here to talk business with Nick Aldis, and Chad Gable will then go start talking about Cody Rhodes being a bad friend, how he deserves what he's getting from Kevin Owens, and yada, yada, yada. So we get a match made for Cody Rhodes to go against Chad Gable in the main event of SmackDown. All throughout the night, you will see Nick Aldis kind of talking to different members of the Raw roster that was there. You saw him in the back talking to Dominic at one point. You saw him talking to Gunther, who's the world champion at one point. So, I mean, they really are doing this whole superstar swap up, and it means SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. So it's going to be real interesting within the next couple of weeks to see what's going to happen with those swap ups. KO, he had a interview with Michael Cole, but that was inside of his car because Kevin Owens did not want to do an interview inside the building because he would talk about how he's been coming to the SmackDown buildings for weeks now, and they were all like every time kick him out of the buildings, telling him that he's not wanted. So he takes it as a preemptive strike. They do the interview. Michael Cole has to listen to Kevin Owens rant and rave about how Cody is the problem, how he backstabbed Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens takes offense with Cody just doing this to him, teaming up with Roman, all this type of stuff. Michael Cole would try to throw out some scenarios to Kevin Owens, saying that Kevin Owens might be the problem, and Kevin Owens isn't trying to hear it. And one specific moment was whenever Michael Cole would list Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and even Cody had to team up to help Roman. And then when he says that, Kevin Owens will blow a gasket on Michael and tell him, listen, Jimmy and Jay, they already made up their mind. They're cousins with Roman and whatever. That's on them. Sami Zayn, I'm gonna cross that bridge when we get to that moment. So that tells you we're gonna get to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. We all know what's gonna happen. But right now he's focused on Cody Rhodes. So you already know Kevin Owens is gonna meet with Cody before the night's over. So we get to the match, the main event, Cody versus Chad Gable. Cody beats Chad Gable in a nice main event matchup. And after the match is over, Cody's checking on his ankle because his ankle got worked on by Chad Gable in the matchup. And who pops up in the ring? Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens, I do like how he's being this dirty heel, just constantly wearing Cody Rhodes' father, American Dream, on his shirt. Because again, it plays two parts. One, he was close with Dusty when Dusty was in NXT. Kevin Owens did come up in the late times when Dusty was around in NXT. So I do like Kevin Owens wearing a t-shirt with Dusty on it. That's one. But two, he's doing it to get at Cody Rhodes, get underneath his skin. So I do like how Kevin Owens is doing that for two things. Kevin Owens will stomp on Cody's ankle, attack Cody. Backstage officials will come down to separate the two, and Cody would jump on Kevin. Kevin will roll out of the ring. Cody would hit a suicide dive onto Kevin, and they would still brawl outside the ring to end SmackDown. So that was SmackDown, and I believe that's everything that happened on the main roster. So that was just SmackDown, wrestling highlights of the week. So now with the main roster out the way, let's talk about NXT. This is going to be really short and sweet for you because, as I said, this was going into their Deadline premium live event that's going on tonight. In the Fatal 4-Way matchup for the women's final slot for the Iron Survivor, you had Jada Parker, you had Ren Sinclair, you had Cora Jade, and you had Kalani Jordan in that matchup. Ren Sinclair, who I don't think nobody expected to win that match, would win. She would win the match, so now she took the 5th spot in the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge matchup. For the men, you had the last spot to compete for. It was Eddie Thorpe, Lexis King, Axiom, and Cedric Alexander. Eddie Thorpe, he would win that match. And again, I think that's another guy that people didn't think would win that. I think people thought that Axiom would do it because you would then have both Nathan Frazier and Axiom to do double duty at the Deadline event. But now it's only going to be Nathan Frazier pulling double duty there. Continuing on NXT, you had the tag team battle royal to determine who's going to be the number 1 contenders for the NXT tag team championships. You had the No Quarter Catch Crews, Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights win that. So they will be going against Nathan Frazier and Axiom at Deadline. You had the announcement of Lola Vice going against Jada Parker in the NXT Underground matchup. You had Trick Williams and Ridge Holland being in the middle of the ring, and it was kind of mediated by Eric Bischoff. Eric was there just basically to stir the pot between both of the men. It would end in a brawl between both Trick Williams and Ridge. It will lead to them going outside the ring. Ridge would hit the Redeemer on Trick on the announce table, and it was to kind of put Trick out. So Trick's going to be going into Deadline with some type of injury on his neck, or at least some type of effects. So I can expect Ridge to go after that. And I believe that's everything that happened on NXT this week. So as I said, it was going into Deadline. This is their go-home show. So now, let's just go on into Deadline with the predictions here. Lola Vice, Jada Parker, NXT Underground. Lola Vice has not lost one of these matches, but I feel that they want to do something with Jada Parker because Jada Parker she has been highlighted a lot this year because she was in the women's ladder match to determine who's going to be the NXT North American Women's Champion, the first ever person. So I think they're still going to continue that momentum because I see both women, Lola Vice and Jada Parker, having a good 2025, but I think NXT has a lot of stock into the Jada Parker character and the aura that Jada Parker gets every time she comes out. Lola Vice and her both get a good crowd appreciation, but I think that Lola Vice doesn't get it as much as Jada. I think Jada just edges her out just by a little bit. So I'm going to go with Jada Parker here on this NXT Underground matchup. For the tag team titles, Nathan Frazier, Axiom going against the good No Quarter Catch Crew. Nathan Frazier and Axiom, they have been holding on to the tag titles for some time now. It all depends on if the men already had their matchup or the tag team matchups going first. Because if the men has their Iron Survivor Challenge first, I'll feel that Nathan's probably going to be tired and Axiom's probably going to have to pull the weight. And if not, I still feel we're going to have to see Axiom pull more of the weight in the tag team matchup because Nathan's going to try to reserve his energy. So, I do want to lead more into the No Quarter Catch Crew because it did seem to send Tavion Heights to Pro Wrestling Noah, and they're putting stock into the Tavion Heights basket. They're putting stock into the No Quarter Catch Crew basket. So I want to go with the No Quarter Catch Crew. However, Nathan Frazier and Axiom, I think it'll just be more interesting for them to still win the tag team titles here, retain it. And Nathan Frazier later goes on to the main event. He loses, and him being the hothead that he is, he's going to be focusing more on that Iron Survivor Challenge loss than it is for him to retain the NXT tag team titles, still being the champion even after the match is over, which will ultimately send either Nathan Frazier over the edge or Axiom finally getting pissed off and just slapping the piss or doing something to Nathan to get his mind back in check of being tag team champions. That's the one way I see it. But, God, I'm rambling over everything. I'm going to go with Nathan Frazier and Axiom. That's the way I think they're going to go with it. NXT NXT Championship, Trick Williams, Ridge Holland, Trick Williams. Trick Williams is going to retain this championship. You're not giving Ridge this. Ridge, he's been having monstrous win after monstrous win. I don't think him winning the NXT championship is in the crystal ball for him right now, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. Trick, he just won it back, in the beginning of October, late September, maybe? I want to say early October, because they made the switch to the CW. And it's only been 2 months. He hasn't had nothing really significant. I think this is like his first significant thing. I mean, outside of Ethan Page. Yeah, he needs another challenger for him. So again, I think Trick Williams is going to do this. Ridge, he'll be fine. Women's Iron Survivor Challenge, we have Sol Ruka, Stephanie Vacour, Zyra, Julia, and Ren Sinclair. I don't think Ren's doing it. I think, if we're going to be all honest, I think we have Zyra really going after the North American Women's Championship, if I'm going to be honest with you. I can see them going with Stephanie Vacour. I can see them going with Stephanie, but I want to say they're going to go with Sol Ruka. So I'm putting Sol Ruka down. Sol Ruka, she's a NXT darling. She's been on the cusp of being one of those people to get shine on and always get shine on from this year. She came back either early this year or late 2023. One of those two. But in 2024, she's been having a good year in NXT. Again, just like Jada Parker, she was in the ladder match to determine who's going to be the first women's North American champion. So that tells you the stock that they have in Sol Ruka. I feel that they're going to have her win this and go against Roxanne Perez at NXT New Year's Evil, because Stephanie Vacour, she just got there. I think you don't want her to take a loss just yet. Julia, she took a loss because of cheating involved from Cora Jade. Zyra, she just got there. You're not having her lose to Roxanne just yet. And it also seems, because when she first got into NXT, like on the last premium live event, who did she target? She targeted the North American Women's Champion. So I think that's where she's going with that. And Ren Sinclair, I just think she's here just to be the fun candidate, to have the surprising pins here and there, but she's going to take some pins. So I'm going with Sol Ruka to win the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge. For the men, we have Wesley, Javon Evans, Nathan Frazier, Ethan Page, Eddie Thorpe. Automatically, Ethan Page isn't doing it because Ethan Page just had his shot at Trick Williams. We're not going back to that once again. Eddie Thorpe, I don't see him doing it because, again, I see them wanting to build Eddie. Eddie's in this good situation right here, but just like Ren, I think he's going to get some wins, but I think he's going to be the guy getting pinned a good bit. Nathan Frazier, it would be interesting for him to win this, to be honest with you, but I don't see them going there. So it would either be Wes or Javon Evans. Javon Evans getting the one-on-one with Trick. It would be fun to see that because they are homies. But I think Wesley's doing it. I think Wesley is going to do it because, again, he's been a guy that has been carrying the NXT banner on his back for a good lengthy amount of time now. He's already been a tag team champion, North American champion. I think they want to try to go and see if he could be a Triple Crown champion. And this is the kind of moment for him to do so. So I think Wesley's going to be the guy. So that's my picks there. So overall, Wesley wins the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge. Sol Ruka wins the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge. Trick Williams retains the NXT Championship. Nathan Frazier and Anderson retains the NXT Tag Team Championships. And Jada Parker, she wins the NXT Underground matchup. So that is your deadline predictions. I will be giving a review of NXT Deadline tomorrow. So on Sunday, you'll get a double dose of episodes. So look forward to that. And I believe that's everything I have to say. So with that, this has been your Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My 2 Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. He's I, and I'm him. I love you all. Have a great rest of your day. You will hear from me again tomorrow or whenever you just decide to download episodes and listen to them. But yeah, have a great day. I love you. Be blessed.